Great. So, do we have a problem? Okay, so is the power sector at least teetering on crisis, on the verge of crisis?
Well, my brother, that question there, it looks like it's like a fully loaded question. The power sector has always been in crisis. It's one of the most, I should say, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, the sector has had these legacy problems for some time, and we have never fully recovered. So every day it's like you move forward, but you have one other issue that come up. So I wouldn't say that we are in crisis, but it's also the situation where you've never been able to solve all the problems in the energy sector.
So it's a sector that has always been in crisis for you. We've not been able to deal with the problems comprehensively enough to get out of that crisis.
Well, you deal with some, but it's a moving train. So whilst you're dealing with them, you know, in the past, we are even talking mostly, I think, this conversation, let's center it on the power sector, right? The power subsector of the energy. Now, in the past, we only had a KOJO, our generational facility. So when there's a problem, everybody says, oh, KOJO can. Now we've moved on. We now have other 8 generating facilities, which is the independent power producers, the IPP. Now, in the past, we only use water. When there's plenty water in the dam, then it's okay. When there's the dry season and there's less water, then you have a problem. Now you only have thermal. You need gas. When you have gas, you're okay. When you have a machine that gives you the gas also have a problem, then you have issues. So as we grow as a nation, there are more challenges that are coming into the sector, but the role of government is to be able to now take all these in and try to have a handle on it. So, I mean, that is the perspective I want us to put it.
Now, there's a discussion about whether or not Dumsor is back. What is your view on that?
Well, my brother, again, if you tell me Dumsor is back, well, the word Dumsor, no, have we made it a noun? Is it a verb or is it an adjective? If it's a noun, then I would like to know what Dumsor is. Because for me, as an account, Dumsor, you don't be near sir. It's Dumsor. Since coming from till now, light always goes off and light always comes back. So that instance, I wouldn't say Dumsor is back. If we are referring to the instance where between 2013 to 2016, we had extensive light outages and there was a planned load shedding management timetable that came out to tell Ghanaians that, look, we don't have the capacity that we need to feed the whole nation. There are times when some people will go off, when some people will come on, because at peak hours or during the day, we do not have the capacity installed to serve the whole of the country. We are not to that situation. Okay, so that is where I have a challenge when somebody says Dumsor is back. Everybody has a definition of what Dumsor is.
What about a situation where at peak hours we do not have the reliable capacity to meet the demand, the peak demand? Do we have that challenge?
And yes, we have had some of those challenges in the past weeks, and that is mainly to do with various maintenance that is ongoing. You know, we have 2 enclaves. You have what you call the Takoradi enclave and then the Tema enclave. Most of our gas, which we produce locally, is in the Takoradi area. So you produce the gas, and most of the plants in the Takoradi area can get the gas. But then you rely on the West African gas pipeline to supply you gas in the east, which is where Tema is and where the other plants are, Sogli and the rest are. As I speak to you, there is a delayed maintenance, which is the gas. They were supposed to finish their maintenance 5 days ago, but we've asked for some time to finish the maintenance. So we don't have enough gas. We have this trickle of gas coming through the Western gas pipeline. There is so much gas that you can send in the reverse flow to Tema. So it's now making it difficult for some plants in Tema to get gas. So that is creating some generational shortfall during the peak hours because of that maintenance being undertaken by West African gas pipeline.
So how long will this take? before some
West
stability
African gas
commission?
pipeline, for my information, probably by the 20th of this month would have concluded. So the gas, which is a 50 scarf that we get from Nigeria, will start flowing. That should resolve the generational shortfall in the Tema enclave. But let me say this. There is also localized challenges. It is not always when light goes off that is because there is load management. ECG has put up a document that says that, look, some of their transformers are being overloaded because there's a rapid growth in certain areas where the transformers are no longer able to serve the locality. So my advice to the listeners is that whenever light goes off, please call the ECG number and they will tell you if the engineers will come around to have a look to see why your lights are off.
So at this stage, two issues. You're saying that generational issues will be solved by March 20th, but the localized issues...
Hold on. I actually gave you the specific problem that will be solved by March 20th, which is the maintenance being taken by NGAS. The flow of NGAS will come through by 20th of March. That will come through and it will resolve the generational challenge in the Tema enclave. As I said in the beginning of this conversation, there are multifaceted of moving parts. Tomorrow, something else might come up because we're dealing with electrical and mechanical issues. So I cannot tell you that the generational issue will be resolved by 20th. Please don't quote me like that. I am saying that that particular problem that I know of now would have been resolved by the 20th. By then, something else might have come up. We can discuss it.
If that problem was solved, would it give us enough generation to make up for the current shortfall?
Yes, because we don't have, we do not have a capacity problem. So when they talk of installed capacity, there's enough machines in the country to generate up to 5,000 megawatts of power. So we don't have a problem of capacity. It's like you being at home and having a generator, but not having fuel because the fuel station down the road has closed and the light went off and you need to go and get diesel. It doesn't mean you don't have the generator. You have a generator, but the fuel station is closed. So you can't get diesel to put in there. It doesn't mean you don't have money. You have money in your pocket, but it's late. You cannot get a place to give you diesel. That is the challenge. The following day, you might go and get diesel, but because maybe you've not put your generator on for some time, you put a diesel in, you put it on, and it won't come on because it needs servicing. So there are multiple problems that will come up as and when we get there. We'll discuss it. But I cannot say that all generational problems will be resolved. That deficit in the Tema enclave, which is being caused by the low gas from Nigeria, that will be resolved from the 20th by God's grace.
But you cannot say for sure that will be the end of the problem we are facing in the power sector. That's something else.
Nobody can say for sure when the power sector problems will be resolved. You must be God to do that. Why? How would anybody? There's over 2.something billion sector, which is the most indebted sector in the country. How would anybody say that you will solve all the problems by the 20th of March? There are plans being put in place. There are policies being put in place. And it's an ongoing, like I said, it's a moving part. So it's an ongoing situation. So nobody can sit on any radio station and say that, look, we'll resolve all power sector problems by this date.
So what would be the most reliable solution to the problem? Is it money?
No, it's not about money. But let me educate you a little on something. You see, sometimes there's MPP and there's NDC, which have been in power in this country for the most part since 92. Now, I think both parties, when they are in government, have philosophical differences. There are certain things that the NDC does that the MPP probably doesn't believe in why they should do same. Now, in the NDC time, when such challenges have arisen where there is maintenance going on, the solution had been to go for light crude oil, which is LCO, or diesel to power the TT3, which is in Tema, operated by VRA. But that's expensive. So when you have a short period, let's say 5 days, 10 days, where you're going to have maintenances that's going to occur, you might want to go and procure diesel, which is very expensive, or procure light crude oil, which is very expensive, and basically run so that the lights are on. But I have always said that if we generate electricity, the bill that comes out of that generation, if we don't pay it in tariffs, we'll pay it in taxes. Because look, as a country, nobody comes to give us money. We need to generate the money internally ourselves. So if Ghanaians, the solution is that go and buy HFO or diesel so that the lights are on within that 10 days, you need to factor that expenditure into the PLC review the next window. So in that case, if we do that, then in the next window, prices of electricity will go up because we have bought expensive fuel, supplied it to Ghanaians to keep the lights on, but somebody has to pay for it. So the lights, the electricity price will have to go up in the next window, which we all understand that in the situation we find ourselves as a country, things are difficult. So would you rather, just basically manage that 5 days or 10 day situation, or quickly go and buy LTO or diesel to now burden Ghanaians with more increase in electricity? That is the philosophical difference. And when you realize that the problem is going to prolong, then you now look at, I'm going to go through this thing for like 2 months. Then what do I need to do? Then you now have to make sure that industry doesn't suffer and the Ghanaians also don't suffer on endly. So you need to now put certain measures in place. But when it's a short term, I don't subscribe to that knee-jerk action of going to buy LCOs and going to buy, and that is where people talk about, because there is no money, government cannot buy fuel to power the generations. When people talk about government always have money. So when people say that the government doesn't have money, yes, you are indebted, but no nation on earth is not indebted. So when America had their challenges during COVID, you know what they did? They owned the dollar. They just went to the printing press and printed more money. But unfortunately, we cannot do that because it will now create problems for our fiscal policies. But government always can find a way of finding money. So let's not make it look like, it's because of money that the Ghanaians are in darkness. No. It is prudent management of the economy.
And that prudent management is informed by the view that a power outage is less expensive than buying fuel.
No, a short-term power outage is manageable than going to spend money, which will, in the long term, burden the Ghanaian, and you need to explain. Look, personally, I believe that most of these conversations, we should have it openly. Do Ghanaians prefer to pay more for electricity by having light at all costs when their leaders will decide to make certain arbitrary decisions on their behalf and burden them later? If you are a very well thought through person, and there is a short-term situation, you don't necessarily look. I have been doing this thing since 2010. I have always found out that what the Ghanaians don't want is the lack of information. But if you explain to them, they are with you. They understand it. So this sort of education on your platform will go on to educate your listeners that, look, this is why there are maybe short-term 2, 3, 5 days problems within the system. But it doesn't mean that when your light goes off, it's always somebody managing load. It's because maybe your lights, you have localized problems, so-called ECG. But look, the jury is out there, the best way to solve some of these things. Somebody might say that, look, I don't care. I want to pay more electricity bills, put my light on at all costs, go and buy diesel if you have to. Somebody might say, yeah, that makes sense. I will manage the 5-10 days and basically not incur more bills to pay more electricity.
If that was the case, should we not have had at least, like you said, a short-term load shedding timetable by now?
When you said load shedding timetable, what do you mean?
A timetable that informs you as to when your light will go off over the short term once the problem is being solved.
Okay, so let me explain this timetable conversation that people keep talking about. For me to be able to give you a timetable, I should know for a fact what the events are in the next 5 days. I should know what the events are with predictability, what the events are in the next 1 month. When the situation are being dealt with as and when, how do you do a timetable? I'm sure you can buy a brand new car, take it out, on your way to Kumasi, the car will stop. plan for that car to spoil, but it's a car. It's a mechanical car. It's an electrical car. Anything can go wrong. So the point is, yes, we know that there is shortfall from the Nigerian gas. But then what are the managers of the sector doing? They are looking at other ways of basically clog that shortfall. So they are bringing in HFO to power AXA. They are basically reducing, there's no point Ghanaians being in darkness if you are exporting power to other countries. So you are reducing the export going to other countries. In some nights, no lights goes off. Because bear in mind, the peak, there isn't a specific peak every day. So you only know the load on the system during the peak time. There are some peaks, in the last 2 weeks that this maintenance of TAPCO and the West African gas pipeline started. It's not every day that everybody's lights are gone off. There are days, 2-3 days that nobody's light goes off. So that is where the problem is. You do not have a specific situation that you are dealing with. In the past, we knew that we had 600 megawatts shortfall. Whether we cry, we jump because the capacity is not there. So you need to let Ghanaians know that every evening from today or during the day from today, we are short of 600 megawatts. That is not the current situation now. The situation now is that you are only presented with a situation in the evening during peak hours, depending on how many demand you have on the grid. Then at that point, you are able to basically manage it. And if there's a shortfall that still will bring the system down, then you manage it. But it is not every day. There's nobody that can call you that in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, every day his light goes off. There's nobody.
Mr. POKU, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Yeah. KOJO POKU is an energy expert and member of Dr. Bawumia Manifesto team. That concludes our discussion on the power issue. In fact, we'll come back and pick a few calls a bit later so that we'll give you the opportunity